Welcome to another episode of Angels, Positivity, and Love. I am super fortunate from California to have just an amazing, universally connected figure. AnnaLysa LITTON, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
You are super talented. You have been for a long time. You've been helping out businesses, individuals. Like I said, you're all about consciousness, the universe, people learning how to get out of their own way to sort of unlock what they've already got, to connect to all there is. Can you talk to us about how you got started and your career life path?
Teachers came into my life just really quickly. I was in college and it was finals week, and my roommate stood up her masseuse. And I was like, I'll take the appointment, come in, come in. And at one point, she wasn't touching my body. And these waves of emotion were ripping through me. I would laugh and then cry like I was possessed. And I said, what are you doing? What are you doing? And she said, I'm shining a flashlight through a blue filter and it causes emotional release. And she said, you need emotional release therapy. She said, I don't do it, but you need it. And she suggested that I work with a Heller worker or a Reichian. No. I think it was a Hello worker. Anyway, so 2 weeks later, I'm in a little cafe having lunch, and this man walks in, and I feel like the angels dumped buckets of love on me. And I just went, oh, what a beautiful man. And I walked up and I introduced myself, and we started talking, and he said, I'm a Hello worker. And I'm like, I need a Hello worker. And my first session with him, I started recalling, being burnt at the stake. My body was sweating and so much energy was coming out of my body. I felt like I could light up Manhattan. And he just went, oh, I haven't seen a wiggler like you in a long time. He's like, you need to meet my friend Shelly. People kept pushing me off. So when I met Shelly, she's a petite little Jewish housewife with huge eyes. She looked like, E.T. Her eyes were so big. But she had had a near-death experience. She'd been dead almost 8 minutes clinically in the hospital, and she could just see right through you. And she said that I had emotions caught up for lifetimes that had to be expressed in this body at this time. And I worked with her for 2.5 years. The first year, like twice a month, the second year, every other month, and then the third year, just a few times. But 6 months after I started working with her, and she would sit down, close her eyes, and said, let me look at you. And you could feel her running around in your body. It was immense. And when she read me, it was like I was in a 3D movie. I was all the past lives, everything. I felt it. And she explained that, we have these energy grids around us, and she would see where it was knotted. And then she'd put the light of her attention into the energy knot. And all of a sudden the story would unfold, and she'd just stay with it until the energy pathway was open. And this one time she saw this little knot of terror in me, and she just started poking at it, and then I went to acting class, and I let out a primal scream. I was up on stage preparing for my scene, and I was doing my ho-hos, to get my energy moving. And I screamed a blood-curdling scream. It was just like, and it felt like the earth opened beneath me, and like the lava came up, and it was just like, everyone was just like, oh, what was that? But it felt so freeing and so good. And then about 6 months later, um, I love, most of us just have to open our mind to think something's possible. So I've been reading Shirley MacLaine's book, Out on a Limb. And she talks about being in a bookstore and having a book from the tippy top shelf fall and hit her on the head. And I read it and I said, oh, that happens. And I was in the Bodhi tree, and a book from the tippy top shelf, a big one, heavy, fell and hit me on the head. So, you buy the book. And it was Harold Percival's Thinking and Destiny, an Ontology of Being. And in the introduction, he talks about taking a step off 42nd Street, in Broadway or something, and myriads of worlds were comprehended, and he was one with everything. And then he sat down and he wrote this 1,300-page plus book. And I was like, oh, that can happen. And then shortly thereafter, I was sitting with a boyfriend. His mother was cooking us dinner. We had about 10, 15 minutes. We weren't going to get busy, we were just, I had nothing to do. I was just loving on him, but I was in the act of giving him love. I was just petting on him. We were just sitting, and I call it at the speed of being infinite. I was one with all that is. And then I was back in my body petting my boyfriend. I was like, okay, and after that, nothing was the same. Nothing was the same, because I loved everybody, everything. Anywhere I was, I had zero competitive energy in my body. I knew the oneness thing. And I was still working with Shelley, so the dreams were very lucid, and then light started coming out of my hands. I started sounding, it's all these experiences. And what I got, and particularly, Shelley would fill in the blanks for me, is that, we all come from source. We all come from the source. And we have consciousness on every single plane of existence. And as we open up to source, this pathway is open, and these higher dimensional aspects of us, our angelic nature, our fairy nature, our goddess being, God being, they start dropping in. So my frequency, because I would have these, I call them installations of soul or higher soul, they just pop in. And my voice would modulate and shift, especially when I work with clients. I have to prepare people, because like my voice changes, and then I speak light language, and then, but this happened in my early 20s when I was still a student at UCLA.
And okay, so I've seen you in action, and I know I'll call it sound effects, but you have waves of light passing through you. I don't even have the right words. I don't think I could find the right words, but the whole consciousness thing, that everything's alive, everything is consciousness, it's big. There's a trillion layers of more openness as you go up the scale. Can you talk to us about how that basic concept of that everything is consciousness? There's frequency everywhere you look. I mean, love is everywhere. If you just open your eyes more, and I love the way that sounds, open your eyes more to find love in everything, almost everything. Can you talk to us about that concept?
Yes. So this, it goes into another story, but I was a cater waiter in college for a very upscale operation. I don't know if it's still going on, but we did all the movie premieres and the big events, and wore the little white gloves and carried the big trays and all of that. And at this one event, I was with my boyfriend, and it was in Palm Springs. And my boyfriend, he was very advanced spiritually, which is kind of how we got together, but he was in his head a lot, so his voice was very tinny. And we were in bed at Caesar's Palace. They put us up at Caesar's Palace, and we had mirrors on the ceiling. And he started channeling, and this voice was very heart-centered. And I was like, "Who are you?" And the voice said, "I am the one who is in all." And he came 3 mornings in a row, and he let me ask all of these questions. But his main message, and he just kept repeating it, was, "Allow me. I am in all things. Allow me, allow me, allow me, allow me." So I started saying, I allow God in all things. I allow God in my car, and the toilet seat, and in everything. And I just got ridiculously happy. And we went down to breakfast one morning at Caesar's Palace, and my boyfriend was about to put bacon in his mouth, and he hesitated, like, should I be eating meat? And he heard, "Assimilate me. I am in all things." And it really is this, God is in you, God is in you. And I've done this with friends. I was out with a woman, and I was going through something, and I looked at her, and the thought came, you could be Mother God. And the next thing, Mother God jumped in her body and just started loving on me. And I'm like, yes, it's when we say this person is that, then we really limit them. But if we say, hey, God's right in you too, then God can come in. We invite them in. So when I'm working with a client, I don't see them as so much the human self. The human self is there, but I see their whole greater self. So more of that part of them comes to be with me because I invite it in and I expect it to be there.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so I'm going to say 3 or 4 different like minor or small things here. Positivity is abundance. You can be happy now in this very moment without any reason whatsoever. It's not externally based. And just allow. Just in each moment is your opening to greater flow, awareness, consciousness, and the connection to all. So with that, can you take us the next maybe story as well? The time you were on those ski slopes or wherever it was, take us to that next chapter here.
Mm-hmm. I was on a panel, and when my first spiritual teacher, one of the first sessions, she channeled that I was well versed in the arts of love. And at the time, I was still afraid of men. I was afraid of sex, and I was a good girl. I was from Texas, and good girls don't, and all of that. And I'm like, are you sure me? I'm well versed in the arts of love. And then, time went by, and I'm like, oh, I'm well versed in the arts of love. And and it was this aspect of me that, is a Dakini tantric, and I have a connection to Shiva. So I was on this panel, and it was about love and sensuality and pleasure. And the woman hosting it was kind of in her head, and she was very nervous. And people aren't going to feel pleasure, and they're not going to hear the words if that energy is going on. And when it was my time to speak, these words came through me, and it was like slow-mo. I mean, I was like, what's happening? But it took us to like another dimensional realm. It's like this plane came through me, this plane of peace, this plane of well-being, this plane of peace and pleasure, so that what I've come to understand now is like when we connect into our core, our God core, we bring heaven with us. We are our own dimension. We really are in these spheres. But you brought up the ski slope, so I'm gonna go back a little bit, because this ties into we are our own dimension, and something about the simulation theory and all of that. So I was in Aspen with a girlfriend. We were staying on Buttermilk Mountain, and I'm in a dream, a lucid dream. I don't know it's a dream yet, but I'm way in space, and I'm flying, and I see this tiny, tiny, tiny little bubble. And then I fly into the bubble, and it's my hotel room. And then I wake up in my body, and I'm like, it's my hotel room. And I see that our realities are these little tiny bubbles, but we are these vast spiritual beings. And my first teacher, her name was Shelley, she used to say when she looked out, all she saw were dots of light. Like, this reality isn't really reality to her. She just saw lights, we're these lights, and that we're in our own little bubbles. We're in our own little reality matrices. And one morning, fairly recently, I think it was last year, I get these voiceovers when I wake up. They kind of set my day. The angels are my higher self. But it said, I am a being of infinite energy. I think my energy was really low at the time. I love where they like, no, you're not, you don't have low energy, you're infinite energy. But it said, I'm a being of infinite energy, living in a God matrix. Everyone's like, oh, you're stuck in the 3D matrix. We're in a God matrix. The 3D matrix is inside the God matrix, just like stretch out, like you did earlier, into the God matrix. But it is allowing. I allow. And just because everyone's pretending, it's a pretend. We're pretending to be in the 3D matrix because we like excitement, we like drama, who we become. We become heroes or villains, but it really is playtime here. But it seems really serious, and we develop character. I think that's what it's about, is we're developing our storyline and our character develops. But it's, we're in a God matrix, even if we think we're in the 3D prison planet matrix, you know, but the bigger picture is, it is a God matrix. God isn't everything when we allow it.
Yes. I love this. Okay, so human-to-human interaction allows for soul-to-soul connections. And also, yeah, just it's bigger than we're typically allowing for. When you're up here, it's limits, it's time. Down here, it's timeless. What else? Just unconditional. It's interconnectedness with all. This is the doorway.
Yes, that's what I love about the universe, is like everyone wants these spiritual powers or abilities, but you have to go through the heart, right? Because the doorway is the heart. The heart is the portal. And if you're not in love, you can't fake it. You actually have to be in love. You actually have to be there. So the universe, it has a fail safe. You know, you're not going to get these super duper spiritual powers of being and seeing and all of that unless, you know, you go through the heart portal, which it is a portal.
Yeah, and Peaceful Warrior, the gymnastics movie, Dan Millman, who may be a guest. I was told to ask him in the fall of 2024 again, to have him on in 2025. We'll see, hopefully, fingers crossed. Be sure to like, subscribe, share, and comment here as we go along. Peaceful Warrior mentions it. The last place that anybody wants to go is their heart. If you're thinking your ego wants to resist that to the end, and it doesn't matter how simple it is. I mean, once you get here and get used to hitting the heart button or opening openness or whatever you want to call it, letting go of the details, it gets easier. And that's so some reassuring or some assurance to people about that. Seth, the 1970s Seth, Jane Roberts talks about it as well. It's not going to be found externally. It's going to go through the world you thought you knew into a broader reality, but I'll add realities, or we'll let you take it from here.
Well, as I said, to get to the good part, you do have to feel the pain and fear in your heart. And who really wants to feel the fear and pain in your heart? Because there is fear and there is pain. And when we first start getting into that really big place, when we expand out of our little identity bubble into the big place, when I first started working with Shelley, my first teacher, I was just walking around going, it's so big, it's so big, it's so big, it's so big. But she was like a spiritual mom, and she held my hand and let me know that it's safe to expand. And the other thing is, you know, we do go through that. I'm going to cry for a minute, but when we open the heart, we do go through the universal oneness, Christ consciousness, and you feel the pain and the agony of the world. There's no way around it. We're part of the collective. We're going to feel the pain of all. And then you expand a little bit more, and then you feel the joy and the ecstasy, and, you know, that can hold that experience. But it's not yours to hold, but it is yours to feel. You know, so people have to be willing to feel everything. And if you feel it, it transforms almost instantly. If you resist it, it stays like a filter and it colors everything. So you can't get through it. And that's something I learned in acting class, is if I had a scene and I'm supposed to be happy and joyful, and I come into class and I'm pissed off and I'm sad and I'm angry, something happened with my boyfriend, my coach, who also worked with my spiritual teacher, and he was like a master in himself, he would say, just start with you are. If you're true, and, you know, you feel what you're feeling, it'll change. And it did. I could start off in the scene going, oh, and then the next thing, the joy would come through. But you have to feel it. If you feel it, it changes. If you don't feel it, you'll live it the rest of your life, you know, as a filter, as a persona, because it's just there. You know, that was what I got, is we're responsible for all of our energy, you know, for everything we've ever created, for our emotional impact on others, you know. And if you don't, I had clients and they didn't want to feel their emotions because it's distracting, right? You know what, I'm gonna be sad for 3 weeks and deal with this? No, I'm just gonna go to work. I don't have time for that. But if you don't deal with it, it's a weight. It is luggage. You feel heavy, you know, or they just get in their head and they just, you know, try to outpace their own feeling. But you're denying a whole plane of existence, you know, and it is through the feeling nature that we know what's right for us and what's wrong for us, you know, because if it's right for us, our little tail wags and we get excited. Or, ooh. If it's wrong for us, we just start feeling, I don't want to do that. I don't want to get on that plane. I don't want to get on that train. I don't want to go to that party. You know, I don't, you know, and that keeps us safe, that feeling. But a lot of people shut down their feeling nature. And I tell people, you want to feel real good, you've got to be a good feeler. You have to feel everything. And our society doesn't encourage that.
Mm-mm.
And
Feel
if you feel a lot, they kind of think you're on drugs, something's wrong with you. That's people used to always ask, what are you on? And I'm like, it's in the air. They're like, no, really, really, what do you want? I want some. I'm like, I mainline God. But you have to feel. And it was funny because as an actor, you know, I get on stage and I very emotional, deeply emotional. And they would applaud and think I'm brilliant. You're that emotional in real life, and they think you're something's off, you know. And I'm like, ugh. But I would feel. Sometimes I would get, oh, I'm gonna cry because it's you know, the sounds and the noises I make. I'm like, where does that come from? And I would say, where does that come from? Where does that come from? And I'm very fortunate. My first two main relationships romantically, they were both completely clairvoyant and clairaudient and more advanced than me. And at one point, this song came through me, and it was so much emotion. I was just like, what is this? What, you know? And he was like, oh, that's a broadcast from a pod of dolphins, and you're just picking it up. But the beauty and depth of that feeling was just, it was glorious and immense. But I've been, I say, you know, for decades, it's like, it's too hard being me because I felt so much. And I didn't have very many people I could relate to. You know, they just thought I was weird. You know, and the truer I am to myself, the weirder I get. I'm gonna have to move to Santa Cruz where they champion the weird, you know, or something.
Well, it's feel what you feel, do not judge. And also, freedom happens when walls are removed. The brain is like an Acme brick manufacturer out of a Bugs Bunny cartoon. I mean, literally give it 5 minutes, it can generate another 30 bricks and start to make a new wall. It's the judgment about this, that, turn on the news, just this, anything but to be here, be in nature, let go do exercise, which is a form of compassion if you're not up here. There's a million ways to let go. Can you talk to us about a couple of key moments that helped pop you again out of what you thought you knew into a broader, we'll call it irreality?
Every day.
But here, give us some flavor. Have you seen angels in human form?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I used to do this for other people, and people would do this for me. I called them appointments in time, and I would get, go here, be there. And I would walk into a store and someone would go, well, you're running a little bit late. Or I walk in and they go, well, here you are, you know, and here she is. And they would have messages for me.
Hmm.
And this one guy, he was the one who was like, you're late, you know, but so when you first open up to direct guidance, you know, according to my boss at the time, he was a doctor, TV reporter, and I was supposed to be running this was back in the day before we could send things wirelessly. I was supposed to be running his tape, you know, to Burbank. And my inner being was like, go stop here at a health food store in Westwood, you know. And I was a little cheeky because I thought, well, if I'm really supposed to be there, there'll be parking right in front. And there was always. And it was like confirmation from the universe. But I got so cheeky, I thought, well, there's only 23 minutes in it. I only need 23 minutes. So if I got a ticket, I'm like, oh, okay, I can't be that dependent on, you know, everything. But the parking place was immediately in front of where I wanted to go. Anyway, so this man's like, oh, well, there she, you know, you're late. Okay, so I walk in and he said, you know, I've just gotten back from Brazil. I have some crystals from stones and my guides want me to give them to you. And I just met him and he gave me these huge stones and emeralds and opals and big crystals. And he was like, these are for you. And I'm like, okay. And I just met him. literally. So things like that happen, and other messages about career and lifestyle, and people just show up with messages, and then I've done that for other people. It's like, like spirit, they're running late, because I'm sitting here standing on a corner waiting for someone to show up, and then a message will come through. But yeah, spirit will use us. We are angelic messengers, each and every one of us, if we're like in the moment and in the flow and listening. But sometimes it'll go against what we think we're supposed to do, and that's when the mind's like, I need to be imperfect, but God wants me here. But I need to be imperfect, but God wants me here. So it takes a little, you have to let go of what I think I know and what I think I'm supposed to do.
Mm.
And that's a frustrating part of the developmental phase of awakening. It's a little, because you don't want to disappoint the powers that be. And
I can remember in 2011, 2012, I was just starting to pop. I'm like, whoa, it's not that I didn't have like a relationship. She was intuitive. I didn't doubt her. I was very fortunate on that. I got goosebumps when she was feeling and seeing, but I just hadn't given it any more room for maneuver to experience more. And then later, as I'm popping again, 2011, 2012, it turns out like half my friends were more intuitive than they'd ever let on, including this one British rocker in Austin. So I'm sitting with him in South Congress thinking he's one of my safe friends who's not intuitive. I'd been at a South by Southwest concert. The official photographer with the badge stops what she's doing and says, "Oh my God, the light's coming all over you, and you're popping, you're flaring, whatever." And I'm like, "Whoa!" I had just gone to the concert not to talk to another human being. I was like, "What's going on?" I'm grabbing psychics by the lapel, saying, "I'm seeing, I'm hearing, what's happening?" So I think this guy's safe. I'm having a beer with him in South Congress, and he just stops what he's doing. I think his name was Chris, and he goes, "I've got a message for you. It's a dove. I think it just means peace." And I mean, I was ready to run down the street and like, because I thought he was safe. We're having a beer and da da da. So I'm just here to say it's always bigger than you think it is. And I'll do one quick, like a lucid dream. It was sort of a Dickens, London, beautiful street, Harry Potterish maybe. I'm dreaming. I'm in my Austin home. Stuff's been going on. I get to a bookstore and I ask every single person, are you the owner? Are you the owner? They're like, no, we're not the owner. I keep going further back. Finally, someone's like, she's back at the desk. So I get to the desk. It's one of those old double bell telephone things. And there's a wonderful woman who goes like this. She's on the phone. And when she gets off, she goes, "I'll see you at the party in just a little bit." And I woke up from that. I went into my living room. Half the time I'd roll over in bed. I was not the best pupil, still a little slow in the uptake. I'm a fast delivering. But I go out there and I took one of my best photos. Now I don't have that handy, but I'll show a photo at Stubbs Barbecue of angels. But the photo I took that night after that dream was all over my kitchen. My crew was saying hi, and it was sort of like applause for having paid attention long enough to just get out of bed. And my message is just all you have to do is agree to pay attention. You don't have to know what that means. You just have to slow down 1% of 1% and allow more and let the universe do everything. It's The Alchemist or Esther Hicks. Universal forces are in place to help you out. You don't have to define the number of reps you think you're going to do in the Olympic or Universal Gym. Can you talk to us about this? It's trust, religious, non-religious faith. Letting go is letting go, getting from here to here.
yes, and I want to build on what you just said, because so many people have so many techniques, and I have to address this, and I have to do this, and I have to, and the stages, and I have to look at, and I have to, And the thing is, if we just we go to the bigger choices. So what I tell people I do is I help people make choices they didn't know they had.
Mm.
So if you make a choice, and one of the best choices anyone can ever make is choose to live in transparency to the living light, the eternal living light, the source light. And then the light, like you said, is the alchemist. It does the work. So once you make that choice and you bring in light, like we were doing earlier, your work, you just keep bringing in light, bringing in light, it does the work for you. And then if you need to look at something, it's in your face. You can't not see it, because the light will bring it up. You can trust the light, man. It's going to clear what needs to be cleared. And people who are on diets or wanting to get off this or get on that, when you bring all the light in your body, I will be right in the middle of a cookie, and my body will say no and put the cookie down, or my body will not pick up the glass of wine for another drink. It's like, we've had enough. my body is so filled with light, it will cut me off or it will choose my meal. So I'm not having to do it from the place of the mind, because I'm doing it from a place of knowing, from a place of integration with the light of what I need in each and every moment. There was a period when I was driving up the coast, and it was when they were spraying malathion in California because of the fruit flies. And I never ate dried fruit at the time because it was loaded with whatever they put on it, sulfur. There was something that, don't eat the dried fruit because it's toxic. And for some reason, I went into a Safeway and I got 2 bags of dried figs and I gorged. I ate them both. And I'm like, that's different. And then 3 months later, I was sitting with a very clairvoyant friend and I told her about it. And she goes, when was that? And I told her, and she goes, they were spraying, what is it? The thing that has Agent Orange in it to kill the fruit fly. Yep. And she said, it's an organophosphate. Figs are really, really high in phosphate. So you gorged on, something that had high phosphate and your body ignored the poison. So like the body knows, if it's filled with light. If you fill yourself with light, then the other stuff, the light will inform you. The light informs you. You don't have to figure it all out because it's exhausting. The mind gets exhausted. You can't know everything you have to know. This world's just far too complicated. And I tried at one point to just say, I'll never have coffee again. And this woman who was with me when we had a onboard experience, I could go into that later, but she already proved how intuitive and psychic she was to me because we had some experiences together. But she said, because we're going through an ascension process, our bodies will need this element from that food, this element from that food. As we go on, it's going to progress. It's going to be different. She said, you can't afford to say, I never eat that. She said, you have to listen in the moment. So I did this thing like, okay, well, I won't give up coffee forever. I'll just do it if I'm guided. So I got back to LA and I was at Century City and I was just hanging out and I heard, have a cappuccino. And I'm like, it's 9 o'clock at night. And they're like, have a cappuccino. I'm like, okay, I had one. And then an hour goes by and they're like, have another cappuccino. And I'm like, are you serious? It's so late at night already, and I, sometimes, they have to tell me a few times. And I understand now, if you hear it 3 times, you better listen. So I had a second cappuccino and I went home. That night, I went into a state where I woke up. Well, when I woke up, I saw fire Hebrew letters in my room. The being Ra came in and just like merged with me. And that day I was just like in another plane all day long, but there was something about the caffeine at night before I went to sleep. And the mind would always say, that's crazy. No, we don't do that. No. But the guide said, second cappuccino at night. And another time, I always thought alcohol, closes your crown chakra, disconnects you from spirit. But one night I was in the Hamptons and there was a period when I was too weird. I felt like I had no friends and I'm like, I want to go be a human, So I was in the Hamptons, I was drinking, I was dancing on tables. I was living what I thought at that time was the good life. And I wake up in the middle of the night, I don't know, 4 or 5 a.m. And I have a huge installation of soul. And I'd been drinking all night and I thought, oh, that'll cut me off. And instead, it allowed an opening very unexpectedly for like this higher dimension of soul to like walk in my body. And I'm like, ooh, I'm in the body. I made it. I made it in my body, but it was like, a larger aspect of me when I'd been drinking, which is really, it was against my beliefs. My beliefs are, if you drink, it'll close your crown chakra and, don't do this, don't do that. And I'm like, in the moment.
It's truly beyond words. If you took 8 billion humans and looked at all their value systems, which I wouldn't want to change a single thought, it's as you've said, it's perfect as it is right now. If you'll just slow down enough to pay attention, and it's beyond the words, so it's even bigger than that. But if it's those sine waves, all the different, like, I don't like the New York Jets, I like the New York Jets. I hate sushi, I love sushi, and everything else, most of it cancels each other out. You're left with a lot of love and a lot of universe and a lot of consciousness and a lot of interdimensionality and a lot of this and a lot of that. And I've got to say to the audience, AnnaLysa's dedicated herself, just allowed, gotten out of her own way, whatever the right compliment would be, to really become a professional bull rider, whether you're the bull, whether the ego's the bull, I don't know, something's the bull, and there is no bull here. You're practiced letting go enough that you've been like an astronaut in terms of experiencing some really wild, from a brain perspective, some really wild experiences, but it's just more flow. And how big is this universe? How big are all the different dimensions? We'll just stick to love and above and up. Big. Big with a capital I or a capital G?
Beyond the
Yeah.
beyond. One of the people, so I've been speaking these angelic light languages for years, and I just thought it was fairy language. And then I met Judy Satori. Do you know who Judy Satori is? She speaks a lot of light languages. And
I think I've seen the name.
The beyond, you know, and she's like, okay, we thought there were this many dimensions, so now there's like this many dimensions, and there's like this, you know, it's beyond. But I was in one of her workshops, and she started speaking some of the languages I speak, and I'm like, speak my language. And she's and I told her I just thought I spoke fairy language, because when it started happening to me, I was in the woods, and it was like one of those things where I, you know, was driving on the freeway, and they're like, pull over. And I'm like, I'm on the freeway, and they're like, pull over. And I pulled over, and I walked into the woods, and I felt like I got jumped by a pack of fairies, because all of a sudden I was just giggling, and I was speaking in a really high frequency range, and I started singing to them, and I couldn't lower my voice. I tried, it was really high, and evidently they came home with me, because after that, for years, psychic would say, you know, you got a pack of fairies with you? And I'm like, yeah. Even when I moved to New York, they stayed with me, and finally I went, you know, and I did a little process to release them. And I wish I hadn't, because I kind of miss them, you know, but I can invite them in now, you know, one-on-one. But I for a long time, but I think they help me have that joy feed through nature, because I really am like this one clairvoyant looked at me, and he's like, man, people think they're sensitive, but you really are. It's like you got off on the wrong planet, you know. And I think that these little elementals, you know, they came to be with me just so I could survive. My guides didn't think I was going to live past 6. They really didn't think I was going to live that long, because I came in open. I worked with Lisa Renee, and she's like, you came in with all your plugins open.
And there's a fairy for you named Ginger. If you want to, whichever way you want to feel her, or if she's got a high peppy voice, and if you want to share what you're getting from her, and you can see a little bit of the rainbow light on her wings.
Yeah.
And so, AnnaLysa, what are you getting from Ginger?
Well, right now she's just saying I can relax. Yeah, relax. So what you were saying earlier about paying attention, that was the thing, is I was looking outside for some kind of validation, for someone to mirror me. And I had a dream where I was just shooing my thoughts away, like, you know, bees or something, like, oh, wait, leave me alone. And I wasn't listening to myself. And I asked my guides, I'm like, why do I get so much information in my dream time? And they're like, because you don't listen during the day.
That's the best.
To your attention.
And yes. Dreams is just another way. I mean, it's everything: flavor, taste, moments, movies, everything. If you just, oh, I got it. So if this is out of your playbook in terms of, and it's everyone's playbook, but the respect the sacred, it's there. Just do this. The sacred space, it's always with you. Just stop looking at your shoe tips. Look up, but breathe. Do something.
And breathe. So my favorite practice, and we could do this together right now if you will. And the audience, let's do this. Pretend that your breath is your lover. You know, when you're really in a beautiful space and you're giving your lover all of your awareness, pretend that your breath is that lover. And now identify, Identify the living light in every breath that you take and in the air that you breathe.
And I'm picturing golden light with the breath everywhere.
And then the next step would be to allow the living light to breathe you. And the breath, this is like, you know, we're going to healers, we're going to this, we're going to that. The breath is our greatest tool. It will integrate us. It will go where it's needed. It'll go to this chakra, to that organ, to your bowels. It'll go where it's needed. If you just allow life to breathe you, if you slow down enough, he kept saying, slow down, and allow, whoa, the breath to breathe you. But it's never far away. It's not out there. It is, whoa, 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 and here.
How about flowers? Let's bring in flowers. I'll put up joy in Charlotte, but people at home, find a way to go to your inner beyond the beyond, whatever you want to call it, the heart without the heart with the heart with 100 hearts. Ask for flowers from above, from within. Catch a scent that you haven't smelled in ages, eons, since you were in Cape Town, Nantucket, wherever, Rosa rugosa, something. Catch a universal smell that would be like flowers for us. What will you allow for? Play that back. Breathe with AnnaLysa. Allow, allow, allow. I can't really say anymore. She'll give you a couple tips. You already know what to do, you just forgot. How about that?
Well, the thing you were asking earlier about how big is it, you know, it's like, where is it? Where are we? So this is my new paradigm work. You know, who are you? Where are you? Where's heaven? Is heaven on a planet? Is it another dimension? Everything that is, every world, every dimension, it's right here. It's just a frequency away. And the frequency away, you get there by your definition. Where am I? I'm surrounded by light. I'm surrounded by darkness. I am beloved. No one loves me. We're creating our environment. So we can imagine that we are surrounded by brilliant light. Anytime you feel any negativity, you throw it in the light, like a light in a, you know, like a bug in a bug zapper. It doesn't have to be that difficult. Like you doing, like bring in light. Just let the room be light. And better than that, you're it. You be the light. Like every cell in your body. And it really does come to what you identify, what you acknowledge. You know, you get what you put your attention on. I put my attention on the light and the nuclei of every cell. So one of my journeys, you know, journey for self, journey for others, a journey for those who haven't done shamanic journeys, is you just take your awareness and you go where you're led. You set an intention, and, you know, I usually ask for an integration of my soul. Since my 20s, people say, what are you up to? And I'm like, integration. You know, is there anything else I can do? I'm like, and with me, I didn't have a choice. You know, as this energy is coming in, it's like, I never got to take time off. One of the teachers I worked with, she's like, yeah, you're kind of stuck open, you know, because I had an agreement, you know, that I would anchor whatever light frequency the universe needs, whenever it needs it, you know, whenever Earth needs. So if I'm anywhere, if a certain frequency is needed, it will shoot through my body. And sometimes I make noise. I was at a gathering, and the guy who's leading the meditation, we were at the Obelisk in Manhattan, in Central Park. And he was like, try to be a little quiet. I'm like, yeah. And I never mean to be loud. And all of a sudden I made a sound and the guy next to me jumped and looked at me and he said, a bolt of blue lightning just shot through your body. I'm like, and he wants me to be quiet. I'm like, it was like sometimes, it comes through. So when I'm working with people, it's like whatever's needed from the metaverse, from all frequencies, all dimensions, it just shows up.
Mm.
And I can't monitor it. One of my clients he's like, I'm really good at tracking people. He's like, I can't track you. You're popping in and out of dimensions so fast. He's like, I can't follow you. And because it's not me, it's like the metaverse just coming through me. I'm a conduit. I'm just holding on for dear life. I'm like, what was that? What was that? Because it's a lot. It's a lot. And that's why I've been like looking for, points of connection with humans that I can relate to. Like when I found Judy Satori, I'm like, oh, thank you. Or another people who have joy, because I have this, when you connect to source, you get happy. You realize, okay, I'm one with the infinite and all this other stuff isn't really that important. But people who aren't happy get mad at you. Like, how dare you be so happy? Why are you happy? And I met Peter Max and he was like, yeah, people get mad at me because I'm too enthusiastic. I'm like, I know. So when we meet other happy people, we instantly go, oh, and it's just like, it's a person who's in their soul, who's made it, who's connected to source. I was on a subway in New York and there was this, black guy with dreads and everyone's got these long faces. And whenever we met eyes, we would both just crack up laughing. And then we try to look away and then we laugh again. And, we were going uptown, on the east side, and everyone's really serious and in their work mode. And, every time we just, our eyes crossed, it was just that recognition of joy. And it's like, oh, you're in your body, you're a God being and you've made it in, it's so refreshing to connect with other people who've made it in. Anyway, so when I'm working with people, it's all here, and a healer, and this was one of my relationships who was very, very, very advanced. He's gone now. His name was Mark Schuss, but he taught me, to heal like Christ, and that was to, when you see someone, you don't even see the illnesses, you don't see what's wrong. You go to the template level of their perfection, and then whatever's needed for that to filter into this human body just starts coming in. I don't even have time to go, oh, your liver's bad, this is bad, this is it, the lights just like, and then people like, oh, my back just healed. Oh, what, but I was like, I didn't know you had a bad back. I didn't know this, decompressed disc. I don't, it just comes in, and it's not my job to know because the light knows. And I think like sometimes we're clearing stuff, negative ET stuff or what, and entities or whatever. If I knew, I think I would freak out. I don't want to see all that stuff. I really don't. And I remember, in a dream time going, well, okay, I'm willing to see angels and fairies, but I don't want to see demons or ghosts. I was trying to negotiate with the universe. Like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to know. And I've only seen the other stuff a few times. But I did get to a point where I was sitting with a demon having tea, and I had no fear. And I'm like, well, of course you're not afraid. You work for, the dark side. You don't have to be afraid. But I came, I came to the realization that even our dark brothers, even the darkest of the dark, they're playing a role. It's like a play, so that we have something to bounce up against, so that we can develop that character, remember who we are as light. But it really is a play. It's like that last episode of Lost. You probably don't watch TV. I don't know if you watch Lost. I couldn't watch it. But my guides were like, watch the last episode. I'm like, oh, okay, I'll watch it. And in the last episode, they'd been through, I don't know, 7, 8 seasons of drama and killing each other and horrible things. But the last episode, they're in an afterlife waiting room. And they're like, oh, and the good guys and the bad guys, and they're all just happy to see each other. I'm like, oh, yeah, you played that role. They're like, and I looked at that TV show and I was like, it's like that. The bad guys, it's not that on the essential self level, they're evil, they're playing a role, they're playing a character. You know, they chose to play it or some level, or that's just, you know, what they were best suited at. Like when you get cast. And the thing is, because we are the creators, we get to rewrite, you know, we can take on a new archetype, like a new outfit, you know, like, okay, you know, I came in not happy archetypes. I came in with the orphan and the martyr. So I have to do this really big thing for your humanity. No one is here to help me. And then they're going to kill me. You know? So I woke up one morning screaming at the top of my lungs, I will not speak again to deaf ears. Because you know, if I do the thing, they're going to kill me. I've been a martyr many, many, many lifetimes. So I'm like, no, not doing it. And then you know, I got a dream because I was reading the Seth material, the Jane Roberts book. And it was like my little Bible for a while. When I was in my 20s, I lived with it. And the dream was, I never have to be afraid because I decide what I will experience. So most of it's just haven't exercised that will. You know, we're doing all the things we're supposed to do, should do, ought to do, the way they did it, but we don't exercise what do I will? What will I? What's my will? And a lot of people in the spiritual thing, they go, oh, you're not supposed to make demands of spirit. You know, you're supposed to like, if they will be done, da, da, da. And in my experience, it was very much like there was a Star Trek episode where the little kids got on board and they started willing things to happen. And I'm like, yeah, that works. When I talk to spirit like this, I want this. It comes in a flash, like in a second. Like almost frighteningly so. There was one period where I was walking around my apartment and I was like, okay, I know there's a part of me that's one with God. I want you in my body now. And all of a sudden, you know, this energy's coming in and I'm like, no. That was almost too much, too fast. But it's like, I want it. Okay, you want it? But you have to want it. And you have to ask. You know, we assist. This was one of my first teachers. We assist the process, or we can resist it. Most of us, I resisted it. I was like, no, I don't want it. I'm not going to do it. I did a performance art thing, and I just remembered this a couple of years ago. And this was like, you know, going back when I was in my 20s, I performed in front of people. They videotaped it. It was back in the day when they videotaped it at UCLA. And I did this performance art thing, and I said, what if I don't want to be such a big girl? What if I don't want to be responsible? What if I don't want to be God? You know, and I remembered that. I'm like, reverse, cancel. I do want to be God. I am willing to be responsible. I'm willing to be a big girl. But for decades, I played the child because I didn't want to take it on. I just like too much, too big. I'm weird enough. And I thought I really had to step down my vibration so I could be with, so I could relate to humans, so I could have some human friends.
Exactly.
But thank God there's collective awakenings coming in, and more people are like, yeah, now I'm not so weird.
Right. I like it. Hey, when I moved to Austin, I was living in my first home since the 80s. So this is like 2010 or something. Maybe I bought the home in 2007, but I didn't move to Austin till full-time till 2009. And somewhere in there, along there, stuff started to happen. I started to see things and all the rest. Sensory was starting to turn on, or I was finally paying attention. But my viewpoint was, I've moved 25 to 40 something times up and down the East Coast. I didn't believe in my own space. You know, if you interview a 73-year-old, a 15-year-old, most people will thump their chest and be like, when I'm at home, I'm home. I come first in my own home. I didn't have that concept. And it was alien to me in terms of like, what are you talking about owning my space? So I had kind of a shaman figure with like a Jewish background, Australian training, some other stuff, who was like, no, you've got to like cook in your house, put stuff up on the walls. You've got to like own it, put plants, take care of plants, indoors, outdoors. You got to start like living. Because I was in New York City mode for 20 years coming into this house. And there was a shapeshifter that was 50-50, or actually negative, but on its best behavior being supervised from above, basically to kick my ass and help me understand there's more to life than this, you know, the thinking stuff. So I had a party, and I think five different people saw five different, like, some people saw an older woman, others saw a younger woman. I got that house cleared so fast by two professionals, and they never normally have to come back. They have to come back like 2 or 3 times. And it was really still, was I accepting and was I taking some responsibility for like, hey, just open up, like trust that the universe is a little bigger. So I got given a long list of to-dos, and I've never plowed through a to-do list faster. Suddenly I had paintings up on the walls. I'm cooking bacon and eggs. I got plants indoors, plants outdoors. I'm hanging up crystals. I've got a hummingbird feeder. I'm starting to like slow my roll. And, you know, the stuff that's important, which, you know, you rinse, repeat every day in these big cities and, or wherever you are, just in the brain. The rat race isn't necessarily Citibank or New York or Chicago. It's actually just here. And it's what you talked about earlier on in the show. It's doing a timeout and a crazy Ivan out of Hunt for Red October. Just don't know anything for a second and see what comes to you.
And every morning is like a new person or being. And it's like you, because we can fall back or we can go forward. So like that, those first few moments are really like, you know, go to the light. You know, that's why I like the Huberman thing. Go to the light, look to the light. I remember a series of affirmations I was given by one of my teachers, and it was just, I'm light, I'm love, I'm laughter, I'm joy. But I was like, you know, the laying the new neural nets, just repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. And I woke up and I saw the light bulb, and I was going, I'm light, I'm light. I was like, I was still running in my sleep. I mean, I just woke up. But like, we have to lay the new grids, you know, in the mind, the new neural nets. And it does take some effort in the beginning. So what I like to say is in the beginning, it is discipline, it is work. And then it becomes food and nourishment. And then it becomes joy and ecstasy. And then you just don't want to stop. There was a period where I was meditating 6 to 8 hours a day because it was just nirvana. It was, you know, the ecstasy feed. I was so high though that I couldn't be around other humans because I would spontaneously sing and dance and rhyme. And I was afraid they were going to lock me up, you know, because
I've seen you do it, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
people don't live like that yet, you know, except in community and at festivals. But, you know, this was not on drugs. This was just, you know, on the God drip, you know, the God deed. And so I caught my bliss period, but I didn't go around people. I had to keep to myself. And it's like, okay, I need to power down if I'm going to be with the humans. I need to drink some wine and, you know, eat more food. And yeah.
I'm going to put Joy up. I don't remember if I've put her up on the show already. I may have, but I'll put up a couple of different angel photos. If you either want to get a reminder on either a story, a reminder for us all. I mean, Joy is big. She's much bigger, and I don't get to say this on the shows very often. She's far broader than people realize, and she's the ambassador communicator here to help us just let go and be.
Oh, yeah. So what you do with the angels is you're helping people, you know, who are waking up to know that even if they don't have the reflections from the humans in their immediate space, they have a team with them, you know, that we're not alone. And that was like my big beef is like, you know, I'm on my own. And then God's like, you know, you have, so what I call the QuantumWe, you know, which includes all the angels, it's like,
and that's her business, folks. The QuantumWe is what she calls her business.
well, it's the space and way to be infinitely connected, infinitely empowered, right? Because that was one of my beefs is I'm alone and God's not here. God dumped me on this planet, you know, and I remembered being in the bosom of God and having all that love and warmth and communion. And all of a sudden I feel like I'm alone and in a loveless land.
Hmm.
And okay, so God's here in everything. And so is the QuantumWe. Are all the angels and the elementals and the guides and our star being families.
Hmm. There's a
Yeah.
Grimes song called, I think it's called Phone Sex, and I think it's hers. She's not in conjunction with another band, but it's all about like, hey, take me home to God. And it's the lyrics are actually really interesting. And the song is very, she's got a lot of creative, and I've got to back up. Grimes, remember the one who was married to or dating or in a relationship with Elon Musk for a while, still connected. I've never heard music that has more dimensionality to it than her
Oh, I
music.
never.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is Radiohead a little bit because it always has like seven things going on at once. But Grimes is like from another place. And I know she, if you look at her, you look at the press, the trail of press, but you're dealing at a societal level. Don't go with that. She's got a lot of different music and it's just so much is going on in it. I think I'm 10 years and on just nonstop Grimes. So for my runs and stuff like that.
Wow, that's wonderful. Well, she must have something going on to be with Elon. She must have something, I
Yeah,
mean,
Elon's from way, I mean, right now with Brazil and all he's doing for fighting the censorship in Brazil this moment, it's incredible. So Elon is Elon. We'll leave it at that. Okay, talk to us about well, here, put Charlotte up. Here's an angel named Charlotte, folks. If you haven't already watched her on any of the other shows, she's just
hmm.
more of a teacher, soft spoken, just here with words meant to help you expand. Does she have a primer, a reminder, a bookmark somewhere that you want to then talk about? What's she saying, first of all, AnnaLysa?
Well, I'm getting an impression she's like helping. Oh, oh, oh. She's helping me presence in my body. So it's like she's offering, oh, 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 like an overlay of light. Just again, it's an integration thing, but it's all the way down to the feet through the light. Like it's because I do this with the clients, but I have to practice every day. But it's like she's helping me put on my light being avatar suit,
Hmm.
my light body.
And I'll do my guardian angel,
Very,
but
very
she's
calming.
she's a lot of people's guardian angels. I mean, maybe 20, 30,000, many more than that. Maybe not even just Earth. I'd mention that. Remember, angels, I'll try to do something. If there's been like 5,000 answers or more in 10 years from people listening, and I don't even see the questions anymore or the answers, but for angels, they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. If you don't like the word angel, it's fine. Universal beings of light, but they live within you and around you, and they technically are still learning from us because growth and expansion never stop. From our perspective as societal, we think they're perfect, and they definitely are in the sense of like you got a question, get an answer, lots of love, and you just have to get out of your own way, set your intent, and it's everything you were saying earlier. But here's Min, light waves of energy and water, soft-spoken professor. And I'll blow through the microphone, just catch a little bit of Hawaii around you, but unless you have a better oceany spot,
Mm.
and what's,
Oh,
yeah.
yes. She helps. Soften the dimensional space. So it's more luxurious, nicer to be in. Mhm. Yeah. So the thing about like I had some friends and I was talking about how do you get love if you don't know love? Because when I was a child, I was the one who was not loved. Abandoned by father and mother, neglectful just because she was loving, but she didn't have the consciousness to stay present. So I was the one who was not loved. I felt like the orphan. So what I've learned is the thing that we think we're missing is what we're here to bring. That's our gift. So when we learn to tap, so this was another one of those dreams. It's not a very glamorous dream, but in the dream, I'm sitting down cleaning a toilet bowl. But I'm also connected through my heart to the great central sun, and through the great central sun into the void, and to all the love that is, to the infinite love through the void. And I'm being told while I wash this toilet bowl that it doesn't matter what I'm doing. but I am meant to be the bridge from the love from the infinite to my hands to whatever I'm doing. Even if it's just cleaning a toilet bowl. That's my assignment, is to be that bridge, even if it's just cleaning a toilet bowl.
I love it. Look, love is the fabric of the universe. If I had to say there were 3 or 4 things I've learned in 12 years of doing this, and I'm supposed to help people meet their own angel team, which I rarely ever get to do. There's too many front-end figures that have the big famous names or whatever I'm trying to say, Mandela, Einstein, Gandhi, angels this, angels that, but people actually can get to know their own crew. And a lot of these figures on the front end are sometimes on their team, and your team isn't as defined. I mean, it changes all the time. It's much more ethereal, if whatever the word is, ephemeral, something like that. Ethereal, I don't know the word. It's moving, yeah, it's changing and shifting. But there was something I was, so love is the fabric of the universe. I've got a couple safe ones now. Where you put your focus is where you put your focus. Letting go is letting go too. And you just keep letting go. It doesn't matter what the details are. Keep letting go. It's what you talked about it just allows you access to the consciousness that's already in you. And it's like hitting a button. First few times you're like, whoa, I don't want to hit the button. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't want to go there. And then you've learned, it's like exercise. You know, you don't like running. You look at your clothes for a couple of weeks. You laugh that you're not running, but you were supposed to go running. You get away with it. Then you finally run to the stop sign, come back. You're not sweating. You get away with it for a couple more weeks. But eventually you have to go 5 houses out. You put the music in, you go an extra song. And at some point you forget that it's not a chore. You're actually just ran 5 miles and you've never done more than 3 and you didn't try. And your body knows exactly what to do ahead of time. There's an organic something consciousness that all you have to do is actually check out of this fake driver's seat and allow. That's it. And whoa, that's when the adventure starts. It's like what Winnie the Pooh says with, you know, the big boots are on. That's when the adventure begins. You can tell the humans are getting serious or not serious. Yeah. So it's Winnie the Pooh. Piglet asks Winnie the Pooh, how do you spell love? And that's all the brain society stuff. Winnie the Pooh always has the best answer. He's like the greatest philosopher ever. He's like, you don't spell it, you feel it. And that is what you do with love, because you've been embodying love now in so many ways. We're not even allowed to get into half of it on this show because it's meant for kids and everybody else as well. But the point is, you've been doing the love thing for a while. So can you talk to us about how shiny, sparkly, infinite, and how it's in total strangers, I mean, everywhere, everything at once, and yet we take everything so seriously. What do we do?
Okay, one of my friends used to tease me that I could have an orgasm drinking a glass of water.
Yep.
And the thing is, it was truth. Because if we go back to God is in everything and we receive it, you know, we receive the wind, we receive the color of that flower, we receive, you know, the feeling of the grass underneath our feet, we start to feel really good. And the body starts to heal.
Satori Samadhi with a little oomph.
Yeah, yeah. And again, it's not encouraged by modern society to feel that good. But that's where the magic is. That's where the power is. And that's how we were designed. We're meant to feel like we did with babies, that just unexpressible joy.
And that there are some beautiful compassion quotes, because compassion's another part of this. We haven't, like, I'm going to quote Plato. Compassion is within all, just many different levels of awareness. I think he said that in like 2014. So people can see Plato. You can see angels in full human form. But Mac, don't call her Mackenzie. Everything plants, animals, and nature. An angel who's a green ball light. I had her pulled out for you. Mac is wonderful. One of your surf guides, if you close your eyes and go to Hawaii, here she is. And she said about compassion, it's treating every moment with the awareness of a newborn baby, which is what you just said.
Oh, I love that.
Now that's a lot of slowing down, a lot of drugs, a lot of other people would be like, whoa, what the hell is she on? I'll have what she's having, like out of When Harry Met Sally. But there's something to this slowing down, mindfulness, meditation, chanting, mudras, mantras. There's a million ways. Just making your salad in the kitchen with a little more mindful, paying attention, like listening, gardening. Gardeners know it. Athletes know it. they compartmentalize it. They think it's only on the playing field or in the swimming pool.
So I'd like to make 2 points about compassion.
Yeah.
And one is all of us are multiplicity of being. You know, we have an inner child, we have an inner goddess, we have, you know, the one who was not loved, we have one that is love. You know, we all have a lot of aspects of self, personalities, sub-personalities. So one act of compassion is listening to all one of my friends called them senators. It's like every senator gets a voice, you know. So having tea time with the self, you know, whether it's through journaling or recording, is important, because if we're not living the life we want, there's some aspect of us who has a fear or a concern or an issue. And if we're going to be compassionate with us, we need to hear that part out. You know, it's just like love ourselves enough to pass the mic to the other parts of self. You know, like what do you need? How can I help soothe that? And that's some of the belief work that'll help get us there. But again, if you have a practice where you're just, you know, drenching yourself, saturating yourself in light, a lot of that will just be lifted. But another thing in compassion with self, it's really hard to have compassion for other people if you don't have any compassion with yourself, is these friends who said, how do you know love when you don't know love?
Mm.
I asked that to a friend, and he had the conversation with a friend of his, and they're both like, we don't know, how do you do it? So I had a teacher, and he taught us how to work with surrogates, you know, stuffed animals. And you can pretend that this is someone that, you know, you need to talk to, or part of yourself. But, you know, I've been angry at someone, and I get a little teddy bear, and it's the boyfriend, and all of a sudden I become him. I feel him, and I feel the pain he's in, and I can't be angry at him anymore. You know, he wasn't capable of loving me the way I thought I should be loved. You know, he was like locked up. So it gave me compassion for him. But what I've learned and what I've taught is for the self, start with the self, is you can imagine that you have a little baby creature in your palm inside of your heart. People want to do this. It's really, really brings you right back to center, right back to love. But to hold your own heart in your hands like it's a baby creature, like a teeny kitty or puppy or bird, and then love that baby creature. Love it with all of your being. Just love it and love it and love it and love it. Whenever you're upset, whenever you're angry, whenever you're fearful, find something to love. You can love your own heart, but love the sky, love your breakfast, love the light. Just love something, and then love some more, and then find something else to love. But if you get in that, like, what can I love? Find something you can love, you know. But you can love your heart, you can love yourself, and just get back to that and reset. Just, you know, if you're not in your love, don't take action. If you're in fear, don't take action. Wait, you know, get your clarity, connect to source, connect to yourself, connect to your love, and then ask what your highest option is, you know, what's right for you. But get in this, you know, the self-soothing, the self-loving, coming back to center, back to source, back to compassion. We do that before we make decisions. Whoa. Before we take actions. Then there's a lot less to do. You know, this is the wisdom of the balance between masculine and feminine. The feminine is the receptive, you know, and we receive energy and we receive visions of what to go and do, right? We nurture and we receive. The masculine gets up and gets the shit done, you know, builds the bridges, it goes on the hunt, it does what needs to be done, but we need both. If we're just in the feminine, we can't get off the couch. If we're just in the masculine, we do a lot of things that aren't helpful or useful and sometimes harmful, but we're doing, you know. So we need to like go into the feminine, receive energy, receive love, be love, receive the vision, of what to go and do, and then go and do it. You know, but we need both. And mastery comes when you can see it, sit in the feminine and go and do. You know, so that's the place of unity, and that's where the power is. You know, if you want to be a magician, if you want to have real power, you have to be in the unity point of masculine and feminine. It can't be just masculine or just feminine. It's that unity point is where the power is. So it's again, acceptance. It's the wisdom of the universe, right? You have to accept all that you are and be in your love. If you want to have real power here, you have to evolve into that acceptance of being.
Being, doing, being by doing by being, the difference to be or not to be, but also doobie do. I just had to do that. Okay. I'm going to put a figure up from India. I've been trying to find a blue Shiva with an alive tiger. All the darn drawings has a dead tiger. And matter of fact, let's just go to the tiger on the wall. I don't want a dead tiger by my Shiva when I hold it up. Haven't been doing Shiva for very long, he thinks. But let's do actually Sri Shirdi Sai Baba for 1 second, the one from 100+ years ago. He'll move, wink, smile in the photograph for folks. If you want to put your hand out and feel some compassion, light, sparkle. If people want to smell Indian temple incense smell, we've done this on other shows, catch it in the air around you. And you can even hear the stuff that makes noise that's metal on the temple. It's musical, chimes, whatever it's called. Hear that in the air. Go all sacred. And what's Sri Shirdi Sai Baba have for us right now?
Well, I'm really a feeler, and I'm all about embodying. So for me, it's this back area where sometimes I can get tense, and it's just this massive, integrating, loving presence.
Now remember, folks, if you get too tense, get somebody and go camping. Okay. Now I'm going to put the tiger up, the one on the wall. This would be the Divine Mother, but also like, yeah, Durga, Divine Mother, someone else too, that rides the tiger. The tiger is not a spirit animal, a little broader, but on everyone's team, action, action, action. And connect with that tiger, but yeah, whichever side of the open room, I think we did this before, you could put your hand out into the open side of the room and like you own a tiger. You can feel it walk by under your hand like this. You can feel the fur, super soft fur. Whereas if I put up Jaguar, man, it is wiry, short, and not as pleasant. I'm telling you now. Both are fully shampooed. You're good. At home, you can feel the tiger or get a lick on the cheek. And pure action. What are you getting from Mr. Mrs., you know, without gender, tiger? Mr. Action.
Well, he's just nuzzling me. More of a cuddle, like.
Good enough. Okay, what's the final item or two? It's far simpler than we think it is, yes? Because it's not about thinking. But how do you obviously have had to walk this path for a long time, so now you're kind of over it in a sense, but there's always still more, not challenges, but opportunities for growth. Can you share with us something that just keeps you, can't really say planted, what keeps you on your path of exploration? What keeps you on your rock on the water's edge? The waves are knocking you off, and you get back on the rock, which is the heart, and you allow more the next day. How do you do this?
I have a dream. I have a directive, you know, to be a living example of the highest possible. And I don't really know what that is yet. I know that when I was young and I was living in Sedona, an immortal being showed up and said, this is how you do this. And when I started aging, I thought I failed God. That's it, I blew my mission. So for me, as I've been getting older, I'm like, how do I do that again? How do I do that? You know, to live in vital joy at every age, at any age, I think I know what it feels like. I know we are eternal. This I know for sure. And there are certain foods, certain waters that carry that frequency, that energy. So, and choosing, making those choices of what makes me feel alive, that vital joy. It's good to be alive. It's, how alive can we be? It's just, I spent so long telling myself, I can't be that here. I can't be that alive. They will kill me. So afraid they're going to kill me that I started, limiting my life force. And I had an accident when I was washing dishes once. I was incredibly relaxed in my bathrobe. I enjoy washing dishes the old-fashioned way with soap and water, and I was so peaceful. And this glass bowl just broke, and I cut a vein, and the blood started squirting as if I tried to commit suicide. It was like, psh, psh. And I had to get rushed to the hospital, get it sewn up. And a few days later, I asked Spirit, "What was that? Why did I do that?" And I heard, "Not living fully is killing me." So for me, I want to live fully. I don't have to be like them. And that was probably one of the loudest mantras I ever heard. I don't have to be like them. 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 But so much of our survival instinct is, I have to be like them. I have to fit in, and yeah,
Structure,
not if they're all going to die. You don't have to be like them.
structure, time, limits, and knowledge, but it's mankind knowledge. So it's very limited, or it's precluding possibility. So it's not really much of anything. It's the way you got to operate if you're going to a 9 to 5. But down here, timeless, no limits, unconditional love, universe, and the knowing is beyond words and beyond stuff. But I'm going to stick Charlotte up to wrap this up.
Okay.
Do you mind doing a direct verbatim from her, even if it's only one sentence?
Okay. I am here to tell you that life is a bowl of cherries, and have your fill.
Nice.
Have your fill.
I love it. Okay. Is there anything else? If a person wants to look you up, how could they maybe take a class, a course, hire you, do one-on-one? Tell us what's the best way a person can find you.
Right now, email my name at gmail.com, AnnaLysa LITTON at gmail.com. And if they would just put angels of positivity in the subject matter, so that I know that they come through you, Michael.
Okay.
And I will have the QuantumWe site up, if it's not up already, and there is QuantumWe on Facebook as well. But email is simple. And for your audience, if they email me, I will send them a gift of the 3 fastest ways to drop density. You don't need it. 3 fastest ways to just let it go.
That is the first time I've heard it put that way, and I love it. Drop density is just getting around the words. And look, as soon as it's up here, it's dense, and down here, it's lighter. And I mean that 5 different ways. So what more do we need to say? AnnaLysa, thank you very much for coming on Angels, Positivity, and Love. It has been a treat. I think the audience, even if it's years from now, are going to appreciate this off the charts. Your vibe is authentic. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me. Blessings. Blessings all. Bye.